Just so everyone knows, the folks that are participating up there are survivors of the camp, Niseis that were also former veterans, so they served their country, and Boy Scouts who, and as you notice, Norman Etta is part of that, Secretary Norman Etta.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's light? O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you to our vets and our former Niseis, former incarcerees, the Niseis, for participating in that touching salute. So if everyone can get settled, we're waiting for Secretary Norman Etta to make the stage. I know we're waiting also for Senator Alan Simpson. But before we do that, I wanted to quickly recognize some important people in the audience. First of all, the ambassador from Japan, thank you so much for being here along with your wife. It's made a very big difference. And let's give her a big hand. When he addressed the crowd in our opening session, he said, I'm not just here to give a speech. I'm here to actually experience what happened here during World War II and to the Japanese Americans. So for that, I thank you on behalf of the Heartland Wyoming Foundation. The other individual that I need to recognize is Minister Mukai and his wife. If you could give just a wave so people know. Minister Mukai likewise participated in the events yesterday. And we also have a special guest, the Consul General Takeuchi from Denver, who wasn't able to make the flight yesterday. And she's one of the first women Consul General of Japan, I think we have the third secretary, Miss Suzuki. Is she here as well? I want to give her a quick wave. I noticed that she was. Oh, there you are. Thank you so much. And I think it's important. I know we have about 50 former incarceree Niseis that are here today, and I'd like to have all of the former incarcerees stand and be recognized. Many of them are my board members, so can you please stand? Of the Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation to stand, as well as the advisors, which includes Judge Raymond Uno, who I know is helping out with the flag ceremony. If you could please stand. And Bacon Sakatani is part of my advisory board. Thank you so much. And the co-chairs of this fabulous program, Claudia Wade, who I introduced yesterday, she's head of the Travel Council, as well as Kathleen Saito-Yule, who was born in Heart Mountain, and they all serve on the board of directors. So I think that really what makes our community great is we have the unification of the Wyoming locals, Cody and Powell, through the representation of Senator Simpson and Pete Simpson. Pete, are you here? I thought I saw Pete earlier.
He's right there.
Pete, can you please stand up? As well as a commitment from the Japanese American community, and I think that relationship is really amplified by our two beloved representatives, Senator Alan Simpson and Norman Etta, who's right behind me. And I think it really helps for us to have guiding principles that bring us together. And I really appreciate Kathy and Claudia for serving in that ambassador role as well. So at this point, I really do want to wait for Senator Simpson. So I'm wondering whether there is something else that we could do. Because he's an important part of this. I'm wondering if we should quickly... Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do the Wyoming discussion?
Welcome everybody, and despite many requests this morning, I have decided not to read one of my drafts of Al Simpson's eulogy. You know, the Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation the commitment and the participation of hundreds of folks from the West Coast who here today, and there have been hundreds to come and and your indispensable support of the foundation. But we would the generosity, the skills, and friendships of our neighbors here in Park County and across the state of Wyoming. The foundation's debt to Wyoming begins with Chet and Mary Blackburn, who were farmers who were the first to recognize the need to preserve this sacred place. Their vision was advanced by our tireless founding champions and leaders, David Reitz, Pat Wolf, John Collins, and the one and only LaDonna Zoll. What those pioneers started has been carried forward by a growing circle of Wyoming partners supporters, and friends. Among them, Pete and Lynn Simpson, Pete's brother. We got so many friends, you may have to hold your applause. Claudia and Tim Wade, Doug and Sheila Newland, Orrin Newland and Michael Gould, Saul Martin, who is the engineer who saved our chimney and who is saving our root cellar, Alan Rapaz, who is the architect who built the center behind me, Judge Steve Granville, who has been a steadfast supporter, the towns of Powell and Cody, the Park County Commission, the Buffalo Bills Center for the West, the Homesteader Museum, Northwest College, the University of Wyoming, the Crow Indian Tribe, the Heart Mountain Nature Conservancy, the local offices of the Bureau of Reclamation and the Bureau of Land Management, Wyoming Rising, the Wyoming Congressional Delegation. They have all had our back and are the reason we are where we are today. I would not be in character as the fundraiser-in-chief around here if I didn't take time to also thank those whose generosity, those Wyomingites, whose generosity has made much of our work possible. Our benefactors include Margot Walk, Naoma Tate, Alan and Pete Simpson, LaDonna Zoll, the Episcopal Diocese of Wyoming, the Wyoming Humanities Council, the Wyoming Art Council, Wyoming Community Foundation, the Jolovich family, which was the family who generously gifted us the land on which the root cellar that we're now completing stands, our Cody and Powell business partners, and hundreds of other people who have donated through their membership and their volunteering. And finally, this place has gotten to where it is today because we have had unbelievably great staff and volunteers. Christy Fleming, Steve Leger, Brian Lessinger, Kim Barhog, Cheryl McDowell, Anna Clifton, Daniel Constine, Dakota Russell. And we have had an amazing number of volunteers that are too numerous for me to single out. In closing, I would just like those of us who are not Wyomingites to take a second to roundly thank all the local folks who have made this growing site and memorial a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you to everyone who's helped and will help in the future. We have a lot to accomplish, and we have a lot of goals that we need to achieve. Right now, I would like to introduce a very special person, and his name is Tom Brokaw. The board established an award, the LaDonna Compassionate Witness Award, in name of LaDonna, who's seated here today. And she was a child living in Powell, Wyoming during the incarceration, and she witnessed the last train of incarcerees leaving Heart Mountain on November 10th, 1945. Since that time, as a teacher in Powell, and one of the first local residents to join in to dream of something being built here, LaDonna has stuck with the foundation for many, many years as a volunteer curator, a docent, as well as a representative of the Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation. We developed the first Compassionate Witness Award in 2017, and everyone says, what is a compassionate witness? And it's really sometimes hard to articulate. But what it really is an individual who's able to step in the shadows of individuals who are being victimized or traumatized and be able to feel what those people are feeling and be a part of their mission. They're able to step out of their comfort zone and be a representative and a leader to help guide this nation to be a better place that we all want to be a part of. Last year we recognized David Ono, and I'm not sure if David is here, and Jeff McIntyre, but David and Jeff have donated. David, can you please stand? And hundreds of hours and time and resources and money to help tell the Hard Mountain story, and they are here this weekend. David will be introducing the Honorable Judge Lancito, who I know is out there as well. But part of that a mission to be a compassionate witness was really embodied in the work of Tom Brokaw. 8 years ago, when we opened the Interpretive Center, he made the trek out here, and he warmed our hearts, and he made a commitment to us that he was always available to come and help us if needed. He did a great episode on the Today Show a couple years ago and spent some time here and really gave us the type of exposure that this association really needs. And when he came to Hard Mountain in 2011, he said, I realized that in so many ways, this is the most humbling experiences that I've had in recent years. And I can tell you, for an anchorman, it's not easy to be humbled. But in fact, you have touched my heart tonight by who you are and what you've been through and what you've made of this. He understood the sacrifices made by the Americans unjustly incarcerated here and the racism that it drove. And in his book, The Greatest Generations, he highlighted two great American heroes, the late Senator Inouye, who was here at our 2011 opening, as well as Secretary Norman Mineta, who is here with us today. So I want to give a warm welcome and a compassionate welcome to Tom Brokaw for being here today and always answering my phone calls and always allowing me to visit him in New York, even though I know his busy schedule sometimes makes it very difficult. So thank you, Tom.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us. I also want to pay tribute to Wyoming royalty, the famous Simpson brothers, who are now with us. Al always knows how to make an entrance. Who could miss him anyway? At 8 feet 3 inches. One of my closest friends in public life, and one of the most important people, along with his brother. They give so much to this country and to this great presenting me as someone who has belongs to all of you. To Shirley for organizing it. Not just during World War II or the 20th century, but in our entire history. America is an idea, but what gives that idea real form come from somewhere else to this blessed land to become American citizens. And the idea that citizens can be so terribly abused simply by their country of origin, by the pigmentation of and everything that each of us should spend every waking hour making sure it never occurs again, wherever we come from, in our ancestry. Whoever we marry, whatever our children become, and how we treat those immigrants who are coming across our borders from a variety of places, even today, we have to think about the idea that race is not in any fashion in America a measurement of worthiness. We're all the same. All Japanese Americans during World War II were treated with a kind of shameful attitude, but especially those who were sent here and to the other camps as well. However, now historians may want to try to gild the rose. This was a concentration camp. nothing less. Armed guards, constricted activity, abusement of all the things that the people who had grown up in this country had come to take for granted. While they were here, their sons were serving overseas and putting themselves in the line of fire for the idea of America and for the idea that we must go on, however uneven or how imperfect that we may be. But most of all, for all the injustice, you did not let that experience define your lives for the rest of your life. Well, I meet people here who were here, or who had a father or mother here, or people who lost their property back home. It's astonishing to me that they say in kind of an old gosh sort of way, I had to go back, my store had been taken over, my dad lost his tuna fleet, but we had to move on. That is not now the kind of attitude that too many Americans have across political lines and across racial lines. The race card has played way too much in American politics across party lines. People are leading with that. Let them come here and see how you really retain your American citizenship every day while it was abused, and then went on with your lives and make continuing contributions to this country. Never forget, but you also did not let this experience so embitter you that you went through the rest of your life and raised your children to be proud of Americans. We can all be proud of what you remind us. I, as you know, spent a lot of time in Normandy, and the idea of the greatest invasion of all kind and the greatest war of all time. And the most enduring lesson for me came unexpectedly when I met a member of the House of Representatives in Normandy, who at that time was unknown as a World War II veteran. Sam Gibbons was his name. He jumped in with the 82nd Airborne, and they jumped in the middle of the night, and they were behind enemy lines. And of course they were scattered. The units that they counted on, they couldn't find in the middle of the night. So Sam had to put together a unit and fight behind enemy lines, up and down the village roads and go from house to house, the people that he picked up along the way. And I said, how did you find them? He said, it was like a toy almost. How did that work? Well, after I stuffed my parachute away, got my weapon ready, I couldn't see anything. Had to try to find a fellow American. So I would click and hope that I would hear, I hear you, I'm coming. And when they went, they didn't say, I'm an Italian American, I don't fight with anybody but Italian Americans. Or I'm from England. Are you from England? I only fight with people from England. Or I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Protestant, or I'm a Jew, or I don't believe. Those are the kinds of people I'm going to fight with. They didn't do that. I'm an American. I'm coming. Let's win this damn war. And you, by your presence here today, are your own victims. You're here because you know you're Americans, and we all learn from you. And so I say, God bless, and I thank you for honoring me.
himself to sustaining the legacy of Heart Mountain as a supporter of our mission to educate the public on the injustices surrounding the mass incarceration of Japanese Americans. And whereas Tom Brokaw inspired us with his address at the successful opening of the Interpretive Center, where he said we're always at our best as a nation when we're more than the sum of our many parts. Whereas his reporting, writing, and personal appearances has continued to spotlight the injustices of what happened at Heart Mountain, provoking others to action. Now, therefore, let it be known, the Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation recognizes Tom Brokaw and honors him with the 2019 LaDonna Zoll Compassionate Witness Award. Give it up for Tom. Amazing experience. I think that Norm and Al are okay coming up together to make a few remarks. And I am working on a book on Heart Mountain that Tom Brokaw is actually contributing to, also book. And of course, Norm and Al are part of that book. And what's really great about it is that we've been able to go back in the archives and look back in their lives and see what they were doing as kids and what their parents were doing. Norm's parents and the commitment that they had when his father came to this country along with his mother. They sacrificed everything for their children and for the family. Like many of the nieces and the parents. I mean, they really set some really good examples for them and allowed them and had them do the right thing by having them come into the camp and spend time over their father, who was governor and senator of Wyoming. Actually with the American Legion, came into the camp and met with the American Legion in the camp. And one of them was Judge Raymond Uno's father, Clarence, who served in World War I. So talk about 6 degrees of Heart Mountain, that essentially Al's and Pete's father came in the camp and met with Judge Raymond Uno's father. You know, unfortunately, after serving World War I, and they have this iconic photo of that funeral service where Clarence laid in his coffin wearing his uniform. But is Judge Raymond Uno in the audience? Judge Uno? I'm almost there. Judge Uno, stand up and be recognized. Stand up. It was so interesting that Judge Uno knew my mother and father's children in the camp. Lake. And he also was there and married my son several years ago. So it's basically this full circle of relationships that make us who we are, that we have all known each other in some way since, 77, 80 years ago. And we're just learning now that the connection, our parents actually knew each other. So it's such a great feeling. But right now I'd like to turn the stage over to Norm and Al. You could come up together and just make a few remarks, nothing fancy.
You always went first anyway, go ahead.
Well, first of all, let me say, Tom Brokaw, thank you so much for a very powerful message. It fills me with a great deal of pride to be the pride that I have about being an American, about being of Japanese ancestry, of being interned here at Hart Mountain. And without a doubt, for all of us, December 7th, 1941 was a seminal moment in our lives. And I remember after executive order was signed, those placards went up, instructions to all of those of Japanese ancestry, aliens and non-aliens. And I was a 10-year-old kid and I saw that placard. And I said to my brother, who was 9 years old, I said, "Al, what's a non-alien?" He says, "That's you." I said, "I'm not a non-alien, I'm a citizen." And that's why to this day, I cherish the word citizen, because my own government, the United States government, would not use the word citizen to describe us. And in speeches, I always say to people, when's the last time you stood on a chair, beat your chest and said, "I'm a proud non-alien of the United States of America"? I don't think you have. And that's why I cherish the word citizen, because of our own government now willing to acknowledge us. And so to all of you whose grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters have been of that 120,000 who experienced the tragedy of the forced evacuation and internment during World War II. Let me say thank you very much for all that you continue to do to keep the focus on places like Hart Mountain and Poston and Manzanar and Gila and all the other camps, to make sure that something like this never ever happens again. And yet I witnessed on September 11th how close we came to a very similar experience as what we experienced in 1941-42. And even to this day, that threat still exists about what's a democracy all about? What's our government? What is constitutional law all about? And so to all of you who take the time from your own very busy schedules to come here and pay tribute to your forebears, but more importantly, to make sure that something like this never ever happens again in the future. Thank you very much.
I can assure you that I don't like to make grand entrances, but when up at noon, I was through for the day. nothing worse than morning breakfast with people. So I do like it with Ann, of course. She and Penny, they've suffered a great deal, but I had to bring up a quick political note. It is a political. They are, and one looked out and he said, this guy on the ground, he said, "Where are we?" And I looked up, he said, "You're in a balloon." They floated away and he said, who would that have been? He said, "Must have been a politician. He gave us the right answer, but he didn't tell us a damn thing." I haven't told you that one. Another quick one. They caught the old guy speeding down the road, and they said, "You got an ID?" And he said, "About what?" Now I've got to quit that.
it's heavy on the heart. And Tom Brokaw, South Dakota kid, sharing the same values, done his shows. We talked about things that are common to people in South Dakota and Wyoming, which are totally different than things in New York and San Francisco. So he touched the American heart. And his wife, Meredith, she is absolute dazzler. So I just want to thank the ambassador for coming, and his wife, and these wonderful people from the delegation of Japan. This is not the first time a Japanese ambassador came here. Nobuo Matsunaga and his wife Yoshiko came here many years ago. To have you return is an inspiration, and we thank you. So, I want to especially thank this chick here. I always call her a chick because she, of course, is. What a dazzler, what an extraordinary woman. She saw him come and she saw him go. Donna, you're very special in my life and others. And Shirley Higuchi is a walking powerhouse. When she calls, you just cringe in the and to say, it's Shirley Higuchi. I love her, and boy, it wouldn't get done without her. And Doug, who knows how to do the game of fundraising and development, what an amazing man to have with us. And Dakota, when you're gone, he's there, and the staff. When you're all gone back to where you go, they come here, we bring them, others bring them, and they receive the most gracious, friendly, professional reception. But anyway, enough. But one thing I would advise you, not you, get a copy again of USA versus Korematsu and read the descent of Frank Murphy. Nobody's ever heard of Frank Murphy. He was a mayor of Detroit, I think, Democrat. Roosevelt appointed him. He did the dissent, the principal dissent in that case. He used the word racism 6 times. War hysteria and racism. We couldn't identify the Germans. We couldn't identify the Italians, but we could identify the Japanese and Japanese Americans. So it was a terrible thing, never to be repeated, and thanks to my little chum here, who was once much taller. So was just know that it's just a glorious experience to come here and see the true essence of a reunion. And I love this time.
My board of directors to please come up to the stage along with Judge Raymond Uno and Bacon Sakatani. So if the board could come in, we want to be able to get a photo with everyone up here because, you know, we did that when Tom Brokaw was here at the grand opening. So can somebody grab Judge Uno and Bacon? And after this photo, we're going to have the blessing by Dr. Williams. What makes this board really special is the majority of the board are Japanese Americans, and many of them were incarcerated for board meetings and other events, it's really a sign of commitment. And we also have 4 generations.
Keep smiling. Say Swiss.
Up in just 10 minutes, and I've been asked to give a In the same space and time as these giants who spoke with us this morning. And I was like, what's a Zen blessing? My temple, Zen-shuji Zen temple in and I wanted to start today with reciting a prayer, a poem by somebody, a Zen priest who was here. Senzaki had a temple in Los Angeles as well. And he wrote this on December 6, 1942. A poem. We Zen students in this interment meditate to the cold wind of the plateau pierces our bones. All demons within us freeze to death. No more demons exist in this snowstorm under the mountain of compassion. Now, he wrote a different poem when he was about to come to Wyoming. He had been in a horse stable in Santa Anita, and he wrote a poem, Leaving Santa Anita. Leaving Santa Anita. This policy may support the tendency of the Buddhist teachings. Who knows? That was his poem. And by policy, he meant the U.S. Army policy of forced removal and indefinite incarceration. And by this tendency of the Buddhist teaching, he meant this tradition in Japanese Buddhism that when the Buddha died, he prophesied that the teachings would go eastward. And in Japan, they always thought about it as, the Buddha's teachings came in the 8th century to Japan from India through China and eastward to Japan. But he was like, I'm moving from these horse stables in Santa Anita eastward to Wyoming. So whether it was thinking about that cold, about that trip here to Wyoming, as the fulfillment of the Buddha's prophecy, he found a perspective, a way of seeing things. Mountain. In his barrack, there's a beautiful sketch here at this interpretive center at Heart Mountain by Estelle Ishigo of him preaching in his barrack. And in honor of him, I'll be chanting the Heart Sutra, and to be followed by Michael Gould, the husband of Ora Newland, one of the Heart Mountain board members. I want to chant this Heart Sutra. It has a message that says that no individual, no person, no thing is alone. You're not alone. We're interconnected. We're interlinked. In my lineage, a Dharma ancestor, Nyogen Senzaki here at the Heart Mountain. But you may have somebody else in your heart, a grandfather, a parent, an uncle, an aunt who is here at Heart Mountain, to remember them, because chanting is a remembrance and it's also a prayer for awakening. It's a remembrance and a prayer for awakening. Here, as Nyogen Sensei said, at the mountain of compassion, Heart Mountain. Makanya harabita shingyo. Yojin 般若波羅蜜多時証券語音階空洞一切空薬シャリシ式不意空空不意式式即税空空即税式重創業式薬尿税シャリシ税商法空想不詳不滅空空不浄不増不減税国空重式無重創業式無限に微絶心に無式証拠未速報無限界内し無意識界無明薬無明人内し無老死薬無老死人無苦終滅道無知薬無徳陰無衝突菩提サッタエ般若波羅蜜多心無形無形無空不音理一切天道無相空行涅槃三世小仏涅槃やハラミアコワノクタラ三脈三宝大高知アンヤハラミタ税大人衆税大名税務上衆税務東道衆明星一切不真実不公公説般若波羅蜜多衆即説衆圧ギャテギャテハラギャテハラソギャテボジソワカ般若心如来マカ般若波羅蜜多信用不従する功徳は第四本師釈迦牟尼仏高祖上陽大師大聖同祭大師不要し立て祭り無常物価五代を称言する
Thank you for that wonderful blessing. So I think that concludes the program. Dakota Russell has a few housekeeping details. So Dakota.
All right, everyone. Before we set off on our activities for the day, I just wanted to make a handful of announcements there. There is plenty of cold water stationed in coolers throughout the site, so as you are traveling around in the buses and going up to all of the places around here, just look for those coolers and help yourself with plenty of water. I want everybody to stay nice and hydrated out there if you could. When we leave out of here, I want you to be aware that when the buses fill up, they will be leaving, so you want to make sure to go ahead and get in line for the one that you want as soon as you possibly can there. And they will be bringing back here, and then they will be heading out to the destinations once again. So there will be 2 trips that will be going, so you'll have a chance to visit 2 places here in the morning today. Bus drivers will have signs that say where they are heading to. Just a few final today. So you'll see them around snapping pictures. If you do see them, smile. And the final thing is, earlier we had a white Subaru in the handicap parking area that had its keys in the ignition and was running. So if that was not intentional and that is your vehicle, you might want to go out there and check that. Yes, and after for lunch and for our keynote address by Judge Lancino, who will be introduced by David Owens. So I look forward to seeing you all again there.